and I can see it today, so this is good. My name is Mandy, and I'm with COVID Recovery Iowa, which is a free peer-to-peer counseling program. And I have with me today my sister, Lisa, from Hudson, Wisconsin, who I haven't seen in person since March.
Right.
So this is fun for us. So Lisa is an occupational therapist in the school system, but also has rainbow tree therapies at home. So can you tell us a little bit about occupational therapy, maybe first?
Sure. And so occupational therapy can be in many different settings. It can be in the medical setting, rehab, outpatient, but I love working with the pediatric or the child population. And so in the school setting, I'm really giving them tools and strategies to help them be best at their learning, whether that looks at fine motor skills, sensory processing support. So that's kind of my role in that setting. And I'm working with teams, with teachers, with other professionals to really support that child's learning in the classroom. And then in my private practice, I really believe in children being supported in natural spaces. And so my private practice is around supporting children in nature and in the outdoors and actually providing therapy using nature as the modality and the treatment setting. And so that looks like sometimes nature camps and group formats, but occupational therapists really support the skills needed for living. And that can look many different ways, but it's being able to do their routines and their habits in whatever way that support needs to look like. We are skilled at task analysis, brain development, and all the neuroscience pieces. So I hope that answers your question.
It's the habit part, I think, that is the reason I thought it would be good to bring you in here today, is because a lot of the people that call in with needs through COVID Recovery Iowa through either a website submission or through our hotline are struggling with that online schooling, virtual schooling, whether it's a hybrid model, or maybe they just chose to do homeschooling this year. Maybe their family has pre-existing conditions. And so it's kind of a whole new ball game on how to do schooling and how to do it at home. And I'm just thinking that maybe with this last week and a half here before the holiday break, that maybe we can give them some tips, some tools just to try and make this last week and a half the best it can be. Sure. Something new they could try just to make the whole thing go a little bit more smoothly or happy or successful. So that's why I thought you'd be a good fit for parenting in a pandemic. So
awesome. So first, to all the families and the parents, you're doing the best that you can. Have a little grace for yourself. I mean, you are taking on something you've never taken on before. But know that what your child needs most from you, and I know, Mandy, this resonates with what your message is, just be there with them and try to make the moments count, whether that be learning or just being there to support them emotionally. And so I'm going to share some things with all of you today, and I'm going to start with a quote because we are talking about creating this environment for learning, right? And it's not at school anymore. Now it's at home. And so how can we do that and still maintain some kind of family routine? So we're going to talk about that today, but I'm going to start with this quote. From a child's perspective, everything is an interactive surface with the potential to be sculpted, painted, draped, or molded artistically. Their play is often a response to the subtle variations in the places and sensations that surround them. So we need to set up this environment that invites them to learn, okay? And children take cues from their environment. So the first learning space that we're going to talk about is the learning space.
Okay, and I want to interject something before you go about the learning space. It could be a grandparent. I know some grandparents are helping with schooling at home. I know some childcare providers are helping with that. So it might not just be a parent. And so, but this could apply to anyone, correct? Setting up the...
Yep, apply to anyone. Yep, whether you're homeschooling, whether you're just doing distance learning for a short period of time, whether your child is completely virtual for this school year, setting up the environment is going to be very important.
And do you have any children that are doing virtual? Can you speak to this personally?
Yes.
I
So
know
I
you
have
can.
2 teenage boys. One is 100% distant learning, meaning he's live streamed into his classroom. And that is a district-wide decision for grades 10, 11, and 12 that they are 100% distance learning. And then I have a 9th grader who is hybrid, meaning he goes on campus a couple days and then he's off campus. So yes, so I can tell you way back in March when we had to, everything was shut down, their workspace was on the couch, hunched over at the coffee table. And so, now moving into this school year, I knew that that was not a sustainable space. Too much distraction, hunched over. And so, having a learning space is pretty important. And I know we're all probably crammed into our houses right now. But if you can find just a one nook in your house to set it up, and maybe on the weekends it comes down, but having a designated spot is pretty important. Okay, so what does that learning space maybe can look like? So organization is key. And if you have a child who struggles with structure, needs structure, or struggles with organization, giving them some organizational tips and strategies could also be helpful. A folder system, a checklist, if they need to, like, here's math, and then we need to take a break. Here's reading, and then you need to take a break. Kind of thinking about what your child needs to learn. And if you don't know that, maybe reach out to a teacher that could support you in really saying, try these things, okay? You have these teams of teachers that are willing to also share their knowledge, so don't be afraid to reach out to them as well. Another strategy for the learning space, if you have more than one learner in your household right now, to use a study corral or a study carrel. And you can go purchase those tri-fold presentation boards, cut it in half, and then you have 2. And it's something that can fold up and be put away and brought out when it's time to learn.
I think that would have been really helpful for my family in March through May there, which we're fortunate in person right now, but I have 3 kids, all 3 different levels. And so I could imagine that, well, they fight all the time anyway. So it would be really helpful for our school day to help have some definition in their spaces. So I think
and it just blocks out distraction. You can use earplugs or headphones to also block out distraction. I mean, some kids just need those kind of tools to ensure that they can focus, which kind of leads me into, well, a couple other things. The first thing is how to set up the space. And so, like I said, my boys were hunched over, and it didn't take long before one of them was complaining of neck pain, back pain. And so if your child has to look at a screen, make sure it is at eye level. You don't want them looking down, and you don't want them looking up.
Okay, I think this would be really good advice for all of us that are working from home too.
Yeah. Across the lifespan.
Yes, it's so good.
Yeah.
Eye level computer.
Yes. And if your child is short or little, having something under their feet can also be supportive for their posture. So their feet aren't dangling. Okay. So it can be a box, it can be a wooden block, just something to put under their feet so they're fully supported. Because if we are hunched over or we have poor posture, that's really fatiguing, and that can impact attention and focus because they're constantly having to fight their body. Okay. All right, so the next thing that if you work with an OT that you've heard about, it's something called sensory tools. And this is really based in neuroscience, knowing that certain things elicit chemical responses that help us feel good, that help us focus, usually working on the neurotransmitters of dopamine and serotonin.
We all need more of that right now, so let's hear it.
Yes, we do. And so it's really thinking about what things can they have that they can have access to in the moment that they need it. And so think about oral tools, chewing gum, fidgeting, sucking on suckers, having a visual to look at occasionally. And so this is my Calm Jar bottle that parents can make at home. It does have glitter, so you have to be willing to go to the glitter mode, but you can fill it with other kind of little doodads, anything can go inside of there, but I love glitter. And so this is really easy to make, and if families are curious about the recipe, I can certainly put that on your event in the discussion.
Yeah, that's great, good.
So gum, suckers, A water bottle with ice water in it can help keep the brain alert.
Mhm.
Different fidgets. Now, if your child is under the age of 7, fidgets can be more toy-ish. So when they're younger, they really need the parent there to kind of be the self-regulator or the co-regulator to keep them on track. Fidgets, you kind of have to really see if that's going to work for a younger child, because as they get older, they can realize that fidgets actually help them learn. For younger children, it can be more of a distraction. So it just depends on your child. But even just a finger clip to fidget with can be helpful. So it doesn't have to be anything too extravagant. You don't have to go purchase anything, but fidgeting can really help children focus. And you'll know whether it's working or not. If they're playing with it and it's going across the room, it may not be working. If they're sitting there fidgeting and they're paying attention, it's working. Okay, any questions about those sensory tools?
Well, so it would be an opportunity to use that would be maybe when their teacher is presenting something then online. So
Yeah,
to hold their attention with the teacher so
right.
that they can get the information that they need,
Yes.
a
Yep.
fidget tool, whether that's, and it could be something in your hand or like the bottle that you showed that you could make, or even something oral like suckers. What else
Gum.
did you mention?
Yep.
Gum.
And if you don't want to go the candy route, you can do beef jerky, dried fruit, a bagel. Those would be some other options. It's important that your child also have enough sleep, have had something in their stomach to start the day. But if they need those kind of snacks, those could be some snacks that you could work in, and that would count as some of those learning tools as well.
So what if
Okay.
you can't be there all day long, which,
Yeah.
for the younger kids, they're going to have somebody there guiding them. But what if they're in, say they're 13 and they're trying to manage this at home? Do you have any tips for a parent that
Mhm.
would leave their child at home to do the virtual schooling when
Right.
they're not there?
So if you have the trifold thing up, I would put up little sticky notes of reminders, or I would have a whiteboard with simply remember that during, math and reading or language arts, take the garbage out. So we'll talk about kind of some of those moving breaks to give them opportunities to get up and move their body. And so they just might need a schedule. They might need a routine or a list of to-dos to help them stay on task and organized. That's kind of what would be my suggestion, depending on the child and how much structure and routine or organization they need would kind of dictate what you need to offer them. I've put, Mandy's an artist, if you don't know this, but she created something for Will, for my son, for his confirmation. And I put that up there because I think it said you can move mountains. And so even for teens to put up some affirmations like, I don't know, effort matters. You don't have to say how smart they are, but just trying and just, putting forth some effort is a great thing. So you can support them on different levels. And if it's a child that just needs some encouragement, maybe a sticky note with, you can do this, or, how's it going? Or send a text message occasionally throughout the day. I mean, you've probably recommended these things, but just to stay plugged in with them in different ways. And you know your child best, so what makes sense for your child, I think, too.
That's good.
All
If
right.
I can see the comments today,
Oh,
so if anybody has any questions other than our mom,
I'm
then
so proud.
then you can put them in there and so Lisa can address them.
Yes.
All right, what do you got next? You were going to
Yes.
talk about movement.
Yes. So a space to move their bodies. If your child has recess breaks because they're plugged in, virtually with their school, they need to go outside. Don't have them just sitting there and waiting till, recess is done. So that's number one. If you are homeschooling, you need to create those opportunities. It's okay to have a schedule where you do a little bit of learning and then they need to go outside and play, or they need to do a little bit of learning and you as a family have a dance party. I mean, just try to work it in to your routine so it doesn't have to be one more thing to do. But children need to move. They have to move their bodies to learn. That is, go ahead.
How much movement did you say in a day?
Yeah, 60 minutes. And that's like vigorous movement.
Okay.
And so I know that that's not always possible for families to send them out for a full hour. So try to work it in doses, in between classes, even if it's just stretching your body, getting up. And if you're a teenager, they need to do jumping jacks or push-ups, or just some weights that you have right by their learning space, and they do some bicep curls.
I do think that 60 minutes all at once sounds overwhelming, but if you're
Yeah.
saying that it's okay to break it up throughout the day, then it sounds way more doable.
Yes. And we know that movement, again, will support that chemical response in the brain to help with focus and help with feeling better.
And help with sleep.
And help with sleep. Yes.
You have to get a certain amount of movement during the day in order to be able to sleep well at night.
Absolutely. So other ways that you can get your children up and moving is to have a chore list. So for my boys, during their day, one of their to-do lists is to go get the mail, and they have to go up the driveway. So that's one of the things that they have to do. And it's just to build in some movement. Taking out the garbage, vacuuming, moving heavy laundry baskets from the bedroom to the laundry room. I mean, just simple things, but anything you could do to get them moving. And so if you have older kids, the chore list is a great way to do that if they don't want to go outside, okay? But for young children, really.
And it's a win-win.
And it's a win-win, absolutely, absolutely. And then you can really, give them kudos for helping the family. For young children, I love obstacle courses, whether that be indoors or outdoors. So pull out some sheets, pull the cushions off the couch. They can go back on and have them create an obstacle course where they're rolling, where they're crawling in, over, on top. That's really fun. And of course, if you have access to a mini trampoline, even better, they can use that. That can sit by the learning space. They jump for a minute and they come back to learn. So just look around your house. What do you have that could help, create an obstacle course? It can be old tires outside. So just look about, around your space and what do you have to make that work? So that's the moving part.
Awesome.
Snowboards are also good. Walks in nature are awesome. Go out with the family, taking the dog for a walk. That's another thing one of my boys has to do every day. Take the dog to the corner and back. So,
but you have ideas for if you're a teenager and you hate going out at the cold. I've heard this from some teenagers. Right. Yeah, put some weights next to your virtual learning station.
Yeah.
What else did you say?
Jumping jacks,
push-ups.
Push-up, just stretching. I mean, if your child likes to do like yoga poses, do that. Yeah. So just try to think about their interests, what they like to do. If you have a girl who likes to dance, she's got to put on her music and do her dance routine. So really looking at their interests, what they already like to do, and building that in.
Sounds good.
Listening to music. Yep. Okay.
Run up and down the stairs?
Sure.
All
yep.
Right.
Absolutely. All right. So we're moving on to the last space, and this is called the calm and connection space. So this can be rolled out, different ways, and it kind of depends on the age of your child. So this is creating like a quiet, calm corner in your house. So for younger children who are having difficulty regulating their emotions, we see frustration, we see refusal, we see giving up. I hate this, I don't want to do this. They might need a time in or a check-in with you as the caregiver, or the helper or the teacher, or whatever your role is with that child. And it's okay to say, this isn't working. We're going to go read your favorite book over in the quiet, calm corner. We're going to do a check-in.
This works for us too. If I just get down at my 5-year-old's eye level, look her in the eye at eye level, and say, what do you need, honey? What can we do right now? That's our check-in. But it takes time. And sometimes, I'm not feeling very patient, or we got to move on to the next thing. But boy, if I can take the time to connect in that way, it's incredibly helpful.
Yes. And so if you can pause in that moment and do the connection right then and there, even better. Some of the children that I work with really need those spaces. And so I've even had a family set up a small tent inside the house, and that is their go-to. And sometimes we build it into the day because it's a child who really struggles with that emotional regulation or that behavioral regulation, and they need doses of that in their day too. So again, it kind of depends on your child, but in that space can be, if you have Christmas lights, hang them up in the space. If you have a tent, put it up in the space. And if you have a small space, you can just use a sheet. I mean, you can do whatever to kind of, create the space. Books, doodle pads, favorite music, favorite snacks. I mean, something that symbolizes comfort for your child should be in that space. A favorite stuffed animal, a favorite blanket. So it can be a bedroom space as well, but sometimes creating a separate space so they know what the intention is again can be helpful.
It seems like it could have a name, this space, and it could be really fun. But then I could also see some kids not ever wanting to come out of that space.
Right. And so for those children, that's why I work it into the schedule. And so you have 5 minutes and then we come back. If your child struggles with transitions, yes, that can be tricky. But again, then I would have the whiteboard with the schedule of the day and we check it off. Oh, we get to go do a check-in. Okay, so we'll set the timer and now it's time to come back to the next thing. And what oral tool do you want as we move on to reading? I mean, so it's really kind of how you present it. But that can be one solution for that if it's tricky coming out of it.
Good.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I had for you as far as the 3 spaces. So learning, movement, check-in, quiet, calm. You can call it whatever you want. And give it a name, like Mandy said.
I'm just reading a comment here.
Yeah.
The entire. This person has built into their day moving, kind of the transition to move throughout the school day, even though it's at home, from upstairs to downstairs.
Oh, perfect.
Incorporating that in. I think people don't realize that just that movement down the hallway from one classroom to another, while it seems like it's not much, if you're schooling at home, you don't get that, even that little bit, and that can affect your sleep cycle.
Yes. And just to add to what that comment was, if your child needs novelty, they need things changed, they need things to be changed up. Yes, changing the learning space can make a big difference. Yep, just like that person said. So awesome for recognizing that.
Yeah, real good. Anything else? We're 22 minutes in, so we're overextending ourselves, but that's okay. It's good discussion. I think good information for everyone. Lisa said she would put a recipe for what do you call the sensory bottle?
I call it a calm down jar, bottle. This happens to be a glass bottle, but you can certainly use plastic. And it's just, it's another tool that can go in the quiet calm area, or it can be used right on the learning space desk as well. So
here's another comment from somebody else I know. Her name is Annie. She says, we'll sometimes do a transition of running around the outside of the house to get the heart rate up. And she says it includes some giggles sometimes, which by all means, we need more of that too.
Yes. Awesome. I love that. Great idea.
So, and then also, let me think, tonight is Wednesday. So it's on Tuesday night, we have parent support group from 5 to 6 on Tuesdays. So I'll put a link to that there so that if you want to continue this conversation, asking other parents what they're doing, because I think these people that are making these comments are all parents that are having to just navigate through schooling at home. And so if you want to get some more input from other parents, you can join that parent support group.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Just believe you can do this. Yeah. And this isn't a forever thing. If this is a temporary for you, you're doing the best that you can do. And so, but really creating a learning space can be helpful. Creating some of those organizations and those routines can be helpful. But please reach out with any questions. I would be happy to answer those. So
you can put it in the comments.
Yeah, and it's been, go ahead. What did you say?
You can put your questions in the comments, even if you don't think of it now. We'll get back to it, either myself or Lisa. She's a member.
I also wanted to say just thank you to COVID Recovery Iowa for all that you are doing. It's incredible, the work that you're doing. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of all the families that you're impacting and supporting, because that's a big undertaking. So thank you, Mandy, for all of your work.
Thank you. And thank you for all your work in the schools, because we're incredibly grateful for that. We know that whether you're having to navigate as a teacher with, or occupational therapist, or anybody in the school system with things being virtual or half and half, or even in person with all the extra cleaning and masks and all that, we know that isn't something you learned how to do at school. So
Right.
we're thankful for you navigating that
Yeah.
new situation.
Yeah.
Because kids are learning, and I'm seeing it happen at my house. So I hope you're seeing it happen at your houses too.
I mean, my boys have adjusted, so yes, but it can take a little bit of figuring out. So, yeah.
Okay, I'll let you go.
All right.
See each other again in person someday.
Someday.
Thank you,
Okay.
Lisa.
Yep.
My older and wiser sister.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Love you.
Bye.